timing of the bomb attempt was in part coincidental. There'd been a number of previous attempts going back many months, but there's no doubt that the Allied invasion of Normandy lent the project greater urgency. After the Battle of Kursk, the Red Army recaptured the initiative, and what's been dubbed by some military historians the forgotten year of the war, from July 1943 to June 1944, the Red Army pushed relentlessly forward, annihilating 120,000 German and Romanian troops in the Crimea in the spring of 1944, launching a massive encircling movement with more than 1.5 million Soviet troops in the central sector of the Eastern Front in June 1944. Codenamed Operation Bagration, this succeeded in killing or capturing 300,000 German troops in less than 2 weeks. 57,000 German prisoners are paraded through Moscow in a kind of Roman triumph. Many had surrendered. They were not willing to endure the kind of suffering the German troops had gone through at Stalingrad anymore. Soon the Red Army had advanced another 200 miles west and was outside the gates of Warsaw. Here, Stalin called upon the city's inhabitants to rise up against the Nazis. But when they did so, on the 1st of August 1944, led by Polish nationalists, Stalin held back until the German SS and police wiped them out, razing most of the city to the ground. 2 months of desperate street fighting, 26,000 German troops were killed, and 200,000 Polish men, women, and children. Scenes of murder and destruction here mirrored those of 18 months before, when the last remaining survivors of the Warsaw Ghetto had risen up against the German occupying forces rather than be deported to the death camps and were similarly annihilated. One of the reasons for the German defeat in Operation Bagration was that, once more, Hitler transferred troops to the west, this time to meet the anticipated cross-channel invasion of the Western Allies. On the night of 5th to 6th of June 1944, more than 4,000 landing ships and over 1,000 warships ferried Allied troops onto the Normandy coast, which was relatively lightly defended because Allied deception measures had convinced the Germans that the landings were going to come elsewhere. The German Army, the German Navy, the German Air Force were too weak to offer much resistance. So the war was now being fought on two fronts. Towards the end of 1944, as the Allied armies were approaching the German border, Hitler launched a counterattack with German armor pushing through a large salient into Allied lines in an attempt to repeat the success of 1940, giving the engagement its name, the Battle of the Bulge. But there was no breakthrough this time. The Allied forces this time were too numerous, too powerful, too well prepared. The German generals were rightly skeptical and half-hearted. The German tanks ran out of petrol. A counterattack by the Americans brought the advance to a halt. The German forces were soon being pushed back to where they'd started from and beyond. And this is the last serious effort by the Germans to stop the Allied advance in the West. 700 German tanks and armored vehicles were destroyed in the battle. These were now irreplaceable, but the Americans had no difficulty in making good their losses. As the Red Army approached the borders of the Reich from the east, the end was clearly in sight.